My wife Sarah was pounding on our guest bathroom door, her face streaked with tears after pulling a brutal 13-hour shift at the emergency room. And on the other side, Patricia Simmons, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA, had locked herself inside, refusing to come out because, and I quote, she was conducting urgent HOA business, which in Patricia's world basically meant updating her fantasy rulebook about shrub symmetry and mailbox alignment. That was the moment I realized, decided, that Patricia's reign over Maplewood Gardens was about to meet its match, and not in some polite, by-the-book neighborly fashion, either, because let's be honest, Patricia didn't know the meaning of boundaries, and for 3 years, she'd run this neighborhood like her own little feudal estate, complete with dress pantsuits, a measuring tape that lived in her purse, and a set of HOA bylaws thicker than the tax code. You know what I mean? She was the kind of person who would measure your grass with a ruler, then fine you if it dared to grow a quarter inch past the magic number she'd memorized from subsection 12.3. I'm Daniel Foster, 43, network security specialist by day, punchline in Patricia's HOA horror show by night. Sarah's a night shift ER nurse, tougher than anyone I know, and if you'd told me 3 years ago that we'd be fighting for the right to use our own bathroom, I'd have said you were nuts. But here we are, living proof that a nightmare in suburbia doesn't have to include chainsaws or masked strangers, just a very determined, slightly unhinged HOA president with a god complex. When we first moved into Maplewood Gardens, we thought the pretty lawns and community pool were worth a little hassle, maybe the odd meeting about dog poop or pool hours. Instead, we found ourselves in Patricia's personal kingdom, where everything from your doormat width to your recycling bin schedule was fair game for a warning or citation. I remember her showing up with a laser level to check the distance between our garden gnomes, shaking her head and sighing about asymmetrical violations. Yeah, that happened. The real escalation, though, started when Patricia discovered that my work-from-home gig gave us the fastest internet in the neighborhood. She came strutting over one night with a speed test printout, HOA letterhead and all, announcing that, per bylaw 42.9, which did not exist, any house with community-leading infrastructure had to serve as an auxiliary resource center. I laughed. She didn't. She said she'd make that bylaw official at the next board meeting, where she held all 5 votes anyway. Next thing we knew, our house became the unofficial headquarters for all things HOA. Monthly meetings, strategic planning sessions, impromptu committee huddles, all of it, right in our living room, our kitchen, sometimes even our backyard. At first, we played along. Figured it was just neighborly to let her use the Wi-Fi or hold a quick meeting. But Patricia didn't do quick or neighborly. She did hostile takeovers. She'd waltz in, sometimes unannounced, inspect our home for compliance, help herself to our coffee, and print violation notices on our printer, then gripe about our beans not being organic fair trade. She was relentless, especially once she learned about Sarah's night shifts. That's when the emergencies always happened. Urgent business that had to be discussed at full volume in the foyer, right after Sarah came home, bone-tired, ready for 3 hours of sleep before the next shift. I installed a video doorbell to screen her visits. Patricia tried to fine us for unauthorized surveillance. One afternoon, I caught her on a ladder, peering into our upstairs windows, supposedly checking if our curtains matched some new, interior textile guidelines she'd made up that morning. When she wasn't inventing new rules, she was patrolling the streets with her cousin Beverly in a souped-up golf cart, a cheap light bar flashing on top. They called themselves the HOA Rapid Response Team. I called them Neighborhood Watch Rejects. They'd hand out pre-violation warnings for things like having too many blue flowers or a patio chair angled the wrong way. She once tried to tow my car because it wasn't parallel enough to the garage, whatever that means. But nothing prepared us for the night of the bathroom standoff. Patricia showed up for one of her so-called telecommunications summits, which was just her and 2 board members arguing about clubhouse internet providers. She asked to use the bathroom, then locked herself in and didn't come out. I figured she was just making calls or avoiding an awkward topic. Patricia could talk for hours about mailbox font regulations. But when Sarah came home the next morning, desperate for the restroom after a 13-hour shift, Patricia still hadn't budged. Sarah started out polite, knocking gently, explaining her situation. Patricia cranked up the fan and drowned her out, still yammering about compliance projections on the phone. When Sarah finally lost it and threatened to call the cops, Patricia slid a paper under the door. Please respect HOA business hours. No interruptions until 8 a.m. You ever see a grown woman do the bathroom dance in her own hallway? It's not pretty. That was my breaking point. I pulled up our smart home system, cranked Baby Shark on the bathroom speaker at max volume, then followed with a loop of fingernails on a chalkboard. Patricia lasted 3 minutes, tops. She burst out, red-faced, yelling about destruction of HOA property and interference with official business. I told her, on camera, that she'd been trespassing for almost an hour, denying a medical worker bathroom access, and I had the whole thing recorded. But I wasn't done. I posted the footage, with timestamps, to our neighborhood Facebook group, alongside the audio of Patricia babbling about her stock portfolio while claiming to run an urgent HOA summit. The comments exploded. People came out of the woodwork. Jennifer from Oak Street, Robert from Pine Avenue. Everyone had a Patricia horror story. She'd measured a lemonade stand, fined a family for sidewalk chalk outside designated hours, even tried to have a wheelchair ramp removed for being the wrong color. Someone dug up a spreadsheet. Patricia had collected over $40,000 in fines, almost all marked administrative costs. The next HOA meeting was chaos. 50 neighbors crowded the clubhouse, spilling into the lot. Patricia tried to call things to order, but people shouted her down, demanding her resignation. I presented not just the bathroom standoff, but 3 months of footage. Patricia sneaking in, raiding our fridge, using our house as her office, and, for the grand finale, running an illegal movie streaming service from our Wi-Fi, then threatening to fine people if they didn't subscribe. A neighbor did the math. Patricia billed the HOA for every visit to our house, mileage, toilet paper, even water. Over $12,000 in fake reimbursements. Another neighbor, Maria, found the missing HOA laptop at Patricia's son's dorm, stuffed with resident data she'd hoarded for a background check that never happened. Patricia tried to gavel the meeting closed, but the vice president, a retired judge, called an emergency vote of no confidence. It was unanimous, minus Patricia. Effective immediately, she was banned from holding any HOA office, period. But that wasn't the end. Sarah's lawyer friend said Patricia's bathroom stunt was false imprisonment. We filed a police report. Patricia got arrested, still wearing her little blazer and name tag. The local news picked it up. HOA president holds bathroom hostage. And the story went viral. #bathroom dictator trending all week. Her real estate business tanked. Her partner bailed. And when the DA got involved, they added fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft to her rap sheet. At trial, more victims came forward. The judge, who clearly hated HOA drama, sentenced Patricia to 30 days in jail, suspended, 3 years probation, and a $5,000 fine. When the sentence came down, Patricia looked like she'd seen a ghost, mumbling, "This can't be happening." But here's the thing. What really stuck with me wasn't the fines, the jail, or even the neighborhood celebration that night. It was that moment, right after the verdict, when a single mom stood up and asked if maybe we could start running this place like an actual community. People clapped, someone laughed, and, for the first time since we'd moved in, Sarah and I felt like maybe, just maybe, Maplewood Gardens could be the home we wanted it to be. Or maybe we just traded one petty tyrant for another. Who knows? That's the gamble you take when you sign those HOA papers, right? So tell me, who was right here, and who went too far? Was Patricia just an overzealous rule follower or a full-blown villain? Does a community need rules or just a little more empathy? Drop your thoughts below, share your own HOA nightmares, and let's hear what you'd have done if you were in my shoes. Maybe your story will be the next wild tale from the suburbs, because trust me, there's always another one coming.